right. Hey, everybody. So we are here today. I'm your host, Janelle. I'm going to get into something very quickly. So, listen, we are going to talk about overcoming shadows, and we're going to get into talking about how trauma, disappointment, and also any past hurts has really stopped us from reaching our purpose. So we're going to dive into it. So I'm on multiple screens. Just want you to know. So I'm seeing every two places because I want to really dive into this. So yesterday I was actually on my purpose driven group. So I'm actually doing this in my purpose driven group because it is. So if you don't know, I have a Facebook group called Purpose Driven Women, and I love this group because it's where women are thriving or come in and they just have questions, and I love to share. Anyway, I did a poll, and in this poll, I said, I'm doing some research, which I truly am doing some research. And the research is, has your past traumas, hurts, or disappointments stopped you from walking fully into your purpose? And the results of it, so if you're in my Facebook group, go ahead and click and do the poll. Tell me what you think. I need to research. Seriously, I do. YouTubers, if you can find me on Facebook. On Facebook, I'm in Purpose Driven Women, Janelle Jones, in order for you to go there, right? And if you haven't done a poll, I need you to do the poll because I'm really doing some research because I'm trying to figure out kind of this where to go and navigate from there. But I wanted to dive into this. I wanted to really dive into talking about, the impact of trauma, disappointment, hurt when we are walking in our purpose. Because, it was a good mix. Most people said definitely it has. And I want to really get into it. So, as you know, I'm a therapist, right? So, with therapy work, we go back and do a lot of healing stuff. There's a lot of things that happen to us, particularly when we were a child or children, that has impact our world, right? I'm sure you all heard this before, but what I'm doing is I'm understanding. So I have the therapy side, but I also have the business side, right? So one of my things I do is I help women walk. My goal is to help them walk into their purpose. So I have a coaching program where I help women take their passion, skills, and expertise, and then learn how to coach other people with what they got. But here's what I'm discovering. Oftentimes with the coaching program, I feel like there's something missing, like a pre-setup that's missing, that's stopping them from going to the next step. And what I mean by that is you have to walk fully into your coaching program or your gifts that you have, and you have to believe in those things. And what's hindering people oftentimes is the things that they've been through, the unhealed trauma, the unhealed hurt, and the unhealed past. Why is that important? I'm so glad that you asked. So I'm gonna give you some therapeutical stuff and some personal stuff. So I'm in this trauma course. And in this trauma course, it really identifies like how trauma changes your brain, especially if you've experienced it as a child. Oftentimes, when we go through trauma, and let me tell you, the lady who is doing this training identified trauma, it can be seen as anything, I repeat, anything that negatively impacts the way you see yourself, others, in the world around you. For many of us, is we didn't have a dad. For many of us, we had an abusive mom. For many of us, we had someone say something inappropriate. Some of us was molested. Some of us was raped. Some of us was abandoned. Some of us was emotionally neglected. Some of us were physically abused. Y'all hear me? Some of us went through so many things that it has impacted our life. Some of us, it wasn't even a traumatic experience. It's something that somebody said that changed our world. You got real cute one day and you went to an event and somebody told you you were ugly. Someone said they didn't like that. Somebody called you fat. Somebody did or said something to you that changed the way you saw yourself, and you've been living with that thing your entire life. Some of us have some real traumas that impacted us. When it comes to disappointments, let me tell you about disappointments. When we're disappointed, disappointments come from unmet expectations. We had this expectations, and some of it isn't even high expectations. We just expected certain things. We had these expectations. The expectation was not met. We are now disappointed. What happens oftentimes is we allow that disappointment, if it's not resolved, turn into resentment, which turns into bitterness. Does that make sense? Why am I talking about or asking, did your trauma, disappointments, or hurt stop you from moving your purpose? Here's why. A lot of times when we are all called to do something. We all have a purpose. And when I tell y'all I'm so passionate about this, I'm so passionate about this because I see so many people, and I've been guilty of it too. That's I can recognize this. Have dynamic purposes on the inside of them. Like God has called them to do great things. They have enormous gifts. But in their mind, because of the things that they have been through in their past, those experiences have taught them that they were not good enough. Does that make sense? And if I believe that I'm not good enough, I am not going to go full force in my purpose because I'm going to question my worth. Some of us had experiences where our fathers were not in our homes. They died or something happened. This was my experience. My father was murdered when I was 4 years old. I didn't really have a father figure in my life. I yearned for that. So I start looking for love in all the wrong places. I get with a childhood neighbor, a neighbor from a child from the neighborhood at 14. I'm pregnant by 16, have a kid by 17, because ultimately I was looking for love in all the wrong places. Had a kid at 17, broke up. We were actually broke up when I got pregnant. Got back together at 19 or 18. I can't even remember. Had two more children. I actually got married, had two more children, and was divorced by 24. So by the time I was 22, I had three kids, right? I'm 22 with three children, and I have no clue who I am. None. Because my experience has taught me the trauma, the disappointment, the hurt, the neglect, the pain, all that stuff taught me that I was not worthy and I was not good enough. Now, let me just say, people may not have meant to display or convey that message in their verbiage or their actions. They may not have meant to convey that, but that is how it made me feel. And because of that, I felt unworthy. Fast forward, I'm like, let me get my stuff together. I'm starting to identify. This is why I wrote the It All Begins With You book, because I began to identify that I am here because of me. Yes, these things happened to me. Yes, these things, had something, they control my life ultimately. But I had to decide that if I wanted to move to the next step, I needed to do something about it. Does it make sense? So I go through the self-discovery journey and I begin to work on Janelle, right? As I'm working on myself, I'm starting to just realize, and don't get me wrong, I did some things too. So it's not just everybody else's fault, right? But I started to realize the things that I was experiencing, the things that I had experienced impact how I showed up. If I didn't believe in myself or my self-worth, I'm not going to show up and just be bold in my purpose. So when you go through the poll, again, if you haven't clicked yet, when you go through the poll, answer honestly. Some of you are called to so many people because the very thing that had you caught up, the very thing that you struggle with, is the very thing that God is going to use to help other people. But you ain't getting the heal. You're not even identified that that's the issue. And I'm not saying that everybody on here has had a traumatic experience. Most people have. But what I'm saying to you is, if we walk through our lives, childhood, into adolescence, into young adulthood, into wherever you are today, and you look at your life and you see the things that you've been through, can you honestly calculate those things and say that you are fully thriving in your purpose? Some of you are. But I guarantee about 90% of the people who's watching via YouTube and Facebook have not, because there's some stuff that happened to them that created this belief, and they are still stuck in this belief. Some of us have had experiences traumatically, and we're stuck in that experience. Something happened to us when we were 19 years old, and we're stuck in that experience. If something happened to me when I was 19 years old, and I'm about to be 45, a lot of times I'm gonna act like that 19 years old because I haven't heard from that experience. Now, let's just say I'm called to help women identify their purpose and their passions, which I am. And one of the things also that I know that's part of my purpose is healing. Because if I'm broken, I ain't helping nobody. Does that make sense? If I'm broken, it's very hard for me to help someone to get healed if I am broken, because then I'm gonna start bleeding on people. So, what trauma does, or disappointment, or hurt, or any type of disruption that we've had in our life, what it does, it makes us stay there. And I am such an advocate of getting out of that place so that you're able to move forward into what God has called you to do and to called you to be. Some of us, oh man, it's a women, we're having an amazing women's conference coming up, and I'm talking about grief. Some of us haven't even identified what the problem is. Some of us haven't even went and opened our heart enough to say, hey, what's still going on and what's happening? Why am I still reacting this way? Because we're triggered. We walking around being triggered like a bug. We are triggered. We're walking around like, oh my God, like you're so emotionally unstable. Some of us are so emotionally unstable because we're constantly being triggered because we're not healing from what happened to us. So what is happening is trauma goes deep. It changes your brain development. The disappointment, the hurt that we're harboring on the inside of us, and I know I can feel it, that some of us have stuff that it's like we're carrying so much weight from the past. When we do that, we're not successfully healing from that, and healing is a process. What is happening to us is that we are not walking fully into what we are created to do and what we are created to be. We are carrying all of this garbage around, and it's like it's literally, think of a slingshot. Like if you're thinking about a slingshot and you're pulling back, and think of, like, you know how, let's just say you have a something heavy in a slingshot. The heavier it is, the further it will go. But while you're pulling it back, there's all these things pulling it, that's also pulling it, causing you not to fully release it. So if I'm doing a slingshot, but then I got five other things that's pulling that slingshot too, it's not going anywhere. So then we have to release it so that thing can travel very far. And some of us are not releasing it. Like we're not taking off. We're on an airplane. We got all this luggage, but we're not taking off because it's too heavy. Does that make sense? So it's hard to operate fully in your purpose when you're stuck in the healing and disappointment and the trauma. Here's the biggest thing from this: when we're stuck in the trauma, disappointment, and the hurts, it also ceases us from manifesting. Because how can you manifest it? It's like manifesting is about energy and frequency and all that stuff. How are you manifesting when you have all that garbage on the inside of you? I know it wasn't your fault, the things that happened to you. I know some of the things that happened to you wasn't your fault. I know some of the things that happened to you was not fair. Some of the things that happened to you were things that you did, choices that you make, things that you decided to forgive, let go, and keep rehearsing. I was in a situation, listen, the stories, I have stories forever. I was in a situation where I was constantly cheated on, constantly cheated on. Like, and I knew it. I was constantly cheated on and I knew it. I was too afraid to leave because I didn't know my worth, right? And I didn't know how to get out that situation, but I constantly was getting cheated. I mean, evidence after evidence after evidence. Physical evidence, if y'all know what I mean, right? Constantly being cheated on. I couldn't be mad. And here's where we go wrong. I couldn't be mad at the person who was constantly cheating on me if I had physical evidence. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that he was cheating, and I stayed. You can't hate the game. You can't hate the player. You got to hate the game. At what point did I take responsibility for myself and my life and say, you keep allowing this to happen? You have options and choices. So you are choosing to stay is something that you are choosing to do. You don't have to do that. Some of us, because of these traumatic incidents or not having people neglect or this trauma, someone dying suddenly, all these things, some of us, because of that, we continue to choose poorly. And we wonder why we're cycling through the same things over and over again because we're not leveling up to who we need to be. Where you want to be requires you to elevate yourself. And you can't elevate yourself, one, if you're not dealing with what happened to you. Two, if you're not properly processing what happened to you. Three, if you're holding on to it. Some of us are holding on so much to what has happened to you, it's a crutch. Like, oh man, I can't believe mama and them did this. They didn't do this. They didn't do this. They didn't do this. This was 100 years ago. No, we're not justifying what they did or didn't do. We're not condoning the behavior. But you not moving on is costing you your purpose. You're aborting the mission of helping the people who's supposed to be in your life so you can help. There's people who are sent to you to hear your voice, to recognize you're there to help them, and you are forfeiting it because you're refusing to move forward or you're not identifying that you need to because you're focused on, I'm cool. I had an incident recently that God was like, I thought my sister died, and I moved on. She died in 2019, so almost 5 years ago. And I'm walking my dog and I'm having this memory. And when I had this memory, immediately I felt sad. And then God began to show me my heart, which revealed to me that I wasn't where I needed to be in the healing process of her passing and how I was holding him hostage because of the situation. I didn't even know I was doing that. So I'm saying all that to say, I'm on a soapbox, but I'm saying all that to say that you have to identify that a lot of you, 90% of you on here, YouTube and Facebook, have not properly healed from your past trauma, disappointments, and hurt. What your baby dad did to you, what your mama did to you, what your daddy did to you, what your sister did to you, what your cousin did to you, how your job treated you, how your business partner treated you. Some of us is not over some of those things that is hindering our purpose. The reason why this is becoming so important to me because I'm recognizing that the reason why people are not showing up fully is because they're stuck in this healing process. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. I get that. But you have the opportunity to choose healing. So that is my soapbox for today. So listen, I want to share with you some of the things, some of the fears, some of the things that happens when we are not healing properly. We have the fear. Some of us have this fear of overcoming the past. We have a fear of being judged. We have a fear of vulnerability and sharing our story. We have a big component with trust. I mean, Eric Thomas, if y'all know him, he's a major speaker. He has a challenge going on. It's a 30-day challenge. And it's different from his regular speaking because he's talking about actually just God. And what he's talking about is trust. Some of us have such an issue with trust. We don't trust anyone because what they did to us. Right? And because we don't have this issue, because we're not trustworthy, we keep getting into wrong circles. We keep attracting the wrong people. We're attracting the hurt people, those people that like us, they don't trust either. So then now we're all in the same circle, self-sabotaging, not trusting each other and not being able to move forward. Okay, we have a fear of being misunderstood, fear of relapsing into old harmful patterns, fear of rejection and lack of support, fear of stagnation or being stuck, right? Lack of process, fear of the unknown and what healing reveals. And this is a good one. And the fear of the unworthiness healing brings as we're walking into our purpose. If I feel unworthy, I'm not going to walk fully in my purpose because I don't think I deserve it. So what does this mean for you? I just want to get on my soapbox. On YouTube, I come on every Friday, whether it's me or whether I am actually interviewing someone. I come on here. So I want to really help you. If you want to, I do have a healing writing prompt that I have for people who are struggling with healing. And I think so many people are struggling with healing, where you can actually go through. It's a 7-day healing journey that I know that God gave me. So I would like to offer that to you for free. All you have to do is just enter your information. So it's a 7-day healing writing prompt, but I would like for you to go through this and really look at how you're able to help yourself, because some of us are in so much denial that is hindering us. Does that make sense? So I'm actually going to put the link in there. Actually, you can go to bit.ly healing writing prompts, bit.ly healing writing prompts. And I'm gonna still put the link in there so you can have it. And what you're gonna do is just go through this 7-day healing process. And I'm adamant. Like when I tell y'all the stories, I'm sure I can bring a group of y'all on here and we can all navigate through the crap that we've been through, the stuff that we allowed, the stuff that we did. Some of us did some stuff, and that karma coming back. That reaping what you sow came back. And some of us are shocked that it's coming back to us, but it's the things that we put out there. Being with people who you're not supposed to be with, messing with somebody who was married. Trust me, I get it. Doing all the things that you were not supposed to do, and then you're wondering why certain things are happening to you, and that's the reason why. We can't just be out here sowing seeds of negativity and then don't expect those things to come back to us. Now, God is so graceful and so merciful that there's some things that's happening that, we didn't get the full consequence of it, but we're still getting consequences. And then you're wondering why it's happening to you. And then you're like, oh, like it can't be you. It's everybody else. That's a problem. Does that make sense? That's a problem. So we have to, if we know better, we do better. We have to do better than just allowing ourselves to end up in situations with people who we know don't deserve us. But because we feel unworthy, we stay in those situations. I don't care if it's a personal relationship, business, it could be an employee. Some of us are going to jobs, they're so toxic. But because we're looking for that security, we stay there and we're miserable, and it's impacting our physical and mental health. But we stay there because it's secure. That's your fault. Does it make sense? Like where we are in our life is where we're choosing to be based off our thoughts. So how are we able to navigate through this healing process from what happened to us eons ago? And I'm not taking away from anybody's story. Everything that I've been through, I have learned to develop something to help someone else with. And the process continues, right? So I'm not saying it's in vain, because I'm pretty sure it's a part of your purpose. But what happens is when we babysit the things that we went through and not allow them to mature and grow, we're reacting and responding and we're making decisions. Some of us are 45, some of us are 55 or 65, and we're making decisions like we did when we were in our 20s. Like, why are you messing with that dude and from good and darn well, he ain't good for you? All right. Why are you talking to sis over there and you subliminally saying things instead of directly having a conversation with her? Right? We're doing these things because we're not fully healed. And this is what I need you to recognize. All right. Don't forget bit.ly healing writing prompts. I'll put this information in. I am going to be back live. I'm coming up with something. This is why I need you guys to go in there and make a check the box to see where you are. You can be honest. If you feel like, hey, no, I'm cool. Some of us have dealt with traumas or past pains or disappointments. Some of us are already dealt with that stuff. And so if it ain't you, then don't, put where you are. But if it is you and you really feel like, you know what, where I am right now is not where I want to be. And if I look at my life and really dig deep into why that is, and you can connect it to some of the things that you have happen, we're going to expose it. All right. So this is your opportunity to help me with some market research things, and also for you to be honest with yourself so that you can really properly heal. Okay. All right. Don't forget to go to bit.ly healing writing prompts, and then get that free download and then go from there. All right. Love y'all. And then if you're on my YouTube channel, this is a part of my Empowerment TV. Empowerment TV, I highlight representing authenticity, purpose, and power. I believe in that with all my heart. I thank you all for watching, and I will see y'all next time. Talk to you later.